Well, Red Bull team principal Christian Horner has warned his Mercedes teammate Toto Wolff not to violate F1's code of conduct during the upcoming summer break. Now, Mercedes has been working hard this year to regain ground on leaders Red Bull and Ferrari, but teams must take a break after next weekend's race in Hungary as the sport shut down over August. However, following Mercedes' 2-3 finish in France, Horner issued a warning. I hear Toto said they're going to work throughout the summer break to improve the car, which would of course be illegal. Mercedes' Lewis Hamilton finished second behind Red Bull's Max Verstappen, with teammate George Russell claiming the final podium spot after jumping Red Bull's Sergio Perez following a late virtual safety car period. But Horner's not worried about a Mercedes comeback just yet, saying, "They were certainly talking up their chances coming into the weekend. I think in the end Max was reasonably comfortable, but you can see they're chipping away at it. They're getting closer and closer." Now, with Mercedes out of the picture for the first half of the season, the title race has become a two-way battle between Red Bull and Ferrari, and the British-based team has taken control at the front. The reigning champions have won 8 of the 12 races thus far, as Ferrari has frequently appeared strong only to make critical errors, and Horner has been surprised by his team's performance thus far. If you had told me going to Christmas last year that with the biggest regulation change in 40 years, with the effort that we put into last year's championship, that we would be sitting here with 8 Grand Prix victories, 2 sprint race victories, and leading both championships by 64 and 82 points respectively, that would have been beyond my wildest expectations. I think that it really is a testament to the determination, dedication and hard work that has gone on behind the scenes within the factory. We've seen Ferrari very competitive also this year. We see Mercedes for sure are gathering momentum, but considering we were probably the last team to transition fully onto this car, it's been a phenomenal job. However, Red Bull's championship fight could easily become much more complicated. According to Mercedes strategy director James Vowles, the team still has a lot of updates to roll out throughout the rest of the 2022 Formula 1 season. The team has had the 3rd fastest car so far this season, comfortably behind Ferrari and Red Bull, but clear of the midfield, having pursued a design that includes the zero sidepod concept that has been routinely questioned in light of its deficit to the top 2 teams. While some other teams with relatively left-field sidepod concepts have moved closer in style to Red Bull's design as upgrades have been introduced, Mercedes has remained true to its concept. When asked if the upgrades Mercedes brought to Paul Ricard, which included a modified curvature of the floor and revised cooling route for the front brakes, had made a difference, Vowles says the team would continue to introduce new parts that brought it closer to Ferrari and Red Bull each time. In terms of the upgrades themselves, yes, they are incremental steps. They're small steps that we're adding to the car, but the important point is that we have plans to introduce far more across the races that follow. We're not going to be able in one go just to catch up and be with Ferrari and Red Bull, but hopefully, as you've seen across the season so far, we're incrementally closing that gap down and we have more to come. Now, according to Vowles' comment, Mercedes will continue to develop the W13 rather than shifting its focus to the 2023 car. As part of the same question, Vowles was asked about the difference in speed between races and practice and qualifying sessions. In qualifying for the French GP, Lewis Hamilton was 9/10 of a second from pole in the fastest Mercedes, which has difficulty generating tyre temperature over a single lap. The car was closer to 6/10 from the ultimate pace in the race. The team preferred that performance trade-off because it ensured the car was more competitive over a longer distance, but Vowles added that Hamilton and George Russell needed to be there or thereabouts in qualifying this weekend at the Hungary, a track where overtaking is more tricky. While we're a little bit more offset in free practice 1 and 2, even qualifying there is a large gap to the front and we're more in the midfield with the McLaren of Lando Norris out-qualifying George, but in the race the car just seems to transform. It's a valid observation, it's one that's been there all year. It's not through necessarily design, we didn't plan to be that offset in qualifying, but the reality is we'd much prefer to have the fast race car we have at the moment. The race is over 50 plus laps and having a car that is competitive on all of those gives you opportunities, and we've typically been able to move back forward through the race into a strong position. That said, we'd obviously prefer to be more competitive in qualifying. There is going to be some tracks like Budapest that are going to cause us issues, and we need to make sure that we're really there or thereabouts to make sure that we don't have a number of other teams between ourselves and Ferrari and Red Bull. However, when asked if Hamilton and Russell's double podium at Paul Ricard made the team optimistic about its chances at the Hungary, where Hamilton has won 8 times, Vowles reiterated that Mercedes still trailed Ferrari and Red Bull. We're not where we need to be yet to be winning, that's the short answer to it, especially for example on qualifying pace, and Hungary will expose that weakness somewhat. We're realistic, we've made steps forward, and I can see progress, and we can see progress for how we're going to move forward again across the next few races, but in Budapest we have to be realistic. Where we are with this car is a strong race car, but we may not be able to use all of it in the conditions that are presented to us, and we need to do a better job than we've been doing to make sure we're qualifying where the car should be, towards the front. Now of course the team still has a lot of work to do, and in some cases they aren't exactly helping themselves. Early in the season, the W13 struggled with porpoising, prompting Mercedes to bring regular updates to Grand Prix and experiment with different setups in search of the right formula to return them to the winner's dais. As a result, George Russell suggested that Mercedes was jeopardizing their chances of success by experimenting too much during race weekends. When you're so far off the pace, you want to try everything you can to try and close that gap. Maybe that's a lesson for us, that we just need to almost focus on ourselves and really try to focus on getting the most out of the car rather than experimenting too much. But we need to experiment at this moment to see what works and what doesn't work. It's a little bit tricky at the moment. Nevertheless, Russell continues to express his optimism over the team's direction of travel. I think we're definitely optimistic because we feel like we do have a direction to keep chipping away at, and we do think we'll make good progress. Qualifying is the day where you have that clearest comparison to your rivals, and it's clearly a bit difficult when you see how far we were from pole. But the race is where we need to judge. I do think we have a faster car than we have done on average this season. But for the time being, Mercedes is probably the last thing on Christian Horner's mind. The French Grand Prix last weekend was a disaster for Ferrari, with Charles Leclerc spinning out of first place and Carlos Sainz finishing 5th after starting 19th due to a grid penalty. Despite Ferrari's disappointment at the French Grand Prix, team principal Mattia Binotto remained optimistic about the F175 package's competitiveness, stating that the team should aim for a 1-2 finish this weekend in Hungary. I think we come out from here, Le Castellet, with full confidence in our package, in our driver's capacity and our speed. Lucky enough now, in a week's time we've got Hungary. It's important for us to turn the page, to look forward. Hungary will be again very hot there, and it will be again about tyre management, tyre degradation and tyre overheating, very similar to Le Castellet. I will say there is plenty of reason why we need to smile and be positive, because our objective going into Hungary should not be for winning, but a 1-2. Now, to say Binotto's goal is optimistic is an understatement, especially given the number of mistakes made by both the team and the drivers during the 2022 season. Nonetheless, Christian Horner agreed that Hungary will be more difficult for Red Bull because it will suit the Ferrari car better. When asked about his expectations for the second half of the season, the team boss said, "I think the second half of the season, obviously it's going to be very competitive. We've got different circuits, different challenges coming up, and there are some interesting venues coming up. We've got Hungary coming up next weekend, which will probably play more to the Ferrari strengths than our strengths. And then we've got some circuits coming up after the break that come back towards us a little bit. It's going to be fascinating how it moves around over the next few races." So, what are your predictions for Hungary? Do you think Ferrari can match Mattia Binotto's expectation of a 1-2 finish? Will Mercedes be able to compete for a win or a podium finish on Sunday? We'd love to hear from you in the comments section below. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel, and don't forget to click the bell button to be notified of future videos.